So those films, the ironic thing about those films is because they were on 16 millimeter film for so long, they never really crossed over into the digital world in terms of something that's out in the public, in the wild. And ironically enough, I was the one who digitized all of those films and ran the project to convert them into computer-based files that could then be shown in all the organizations, um, in a digital format. But when we did that, David Miscavige said, this is only going to get approved if you figure out a way that these films will never, ever, ever be able to get onto the internet. And so the reason why those films are not on the internet is because of me. The system that we made all of the files separate. So some of them have subtitles, some of them have a different language, and some of them have a different video file, depending on what the language is. The titles and everything are specific to the language. And we actually built a media player called SciPlayer. And it takes the voice track and the specific track of video that's in English and the subtitle, and it sort of like pours them into a mixer and plays them on the computer real time. So you're not watching the English version of this film. You're watching the English video and English audio and an English subtitle that are being combined live for you when you watch it. And when you're not watching it, that film doesn't exist as you just saw it.
Wow.
So you would have to, it's funny because I tell people you'd have to get one of these computers and you'd have to know the password. You'd also have to know how not to burn it down, because we had to build in there like a fail safe. So if it got into the wrong hands and then somebody entered the wrong password, it would just burn the files down. So there's all these other things. That is the reason why I think that those files just never really got out there, because it was something that David Miscavige was very, very, very cognizant of, that if these things ended out there, they would be wild if people on the internet saw them. And so he tried to take every precaution as possible to make it so they wouldn't end up. Whether they do or don't in the future, who knows?
Well, they inevitably will, but given time.
You think they will. And I know at least 3 people that have either the audio files or they have the video files or they have some part.
You've got the computer.
Well, I have a computer from a system, but either way, they have all these, it's just like anything else in Scientology. They silo information and they silo things. So if that person does get out, or that person does turn on them, they sort of are able to minimize the damage that person could do, because they don't know the other parts of the story, or they don't know the other player. It's the same thing they do with private investigators and all these sort of, operations.